Hello everyone. Hello again. Actually, this is the third time I'm helloing you. Mona and I would love to welcome you for today's session called Purpose, People, and Performance. Here we will be deep diving into HR's role in delivering ESG impact. At our end, we do multiple webinars. We have one almost every month, but this conversation is very unique. For us, we're typically talking to folks who belong to the space of sustainability. They've dedicated their careers to that, and they belong to two different sectors. However, today's session is extremely unique because we have Mona with us. She's a very dear friend and also one of the only few people, one of the only person I know who has thought extremely deeply about the interaction between the HR function and the sustainability function. So I'm very excited for this conversation myself. Before I bring her on, I would also love to give all of you a quick background about her. She's a GRI certified consultant and a master trainer, and currently a manager at the Hagar Group. With over 25 years of experience in corporate sustainability and ESG, she brings deep hands-on expertise in embedding sustainability into core business operations and driving alignment with sustainable development goals. Throughout her career, she has worked closely with leadership teams to translate ESG commitments into practical, measurable outcomes across organizations. And we are so excited to have her here for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mona.
Thank you so much, Arushi. Thank you for the introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm really pleased to be delivering this webinar. Thank you so much, Arushi, for having me. It's a topic that's very close to my heart. And I think that the way we look at sustainability and ESG needs to be broken down per functions if we really want it to be implemented properly and taken up seriously. And this could be a series of webinars where we look at the link with all the functions, like the link between sustainability and finance, link between sustainability and supply chain. But I think one of the very important links is that with the human resources. And I would like to start off by a quote from the Right Honorable Chloe Smith, who is the president of the CIPD. For those of you who are come from an HR background, they must be very well aware of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. And one quote that she said is that for many of the members of CIPD, when it comes to many significant business drivers, be them financial drivers, like revenue growth, like efficiency, like productivity. If we want these drivers to have an impact, embedding sustainability into the business is the first thing to start off. And to do that, it needs to be embedded into the people strategy, or our people strategy, as she said it. So to break down this, or to further, this is just to show the link. That it goes as high up as like the president of the CIPD, acknowledgement from HR practitioners that sustainability is part and parcel of what they do. But I would also like to take you through, this webinar will have three sections. The first is going to unpack with you the concept of sustainability and ESG, like the understanding, what's it all about? The two terms are used interchangeably. So I would like to make sure that everyone knows what sustainability exactly is and what ESG exactly is. I would like to take you through a few sustainability and ESG frameworks. There are so many, and they're growing every day. There's like this standard, this guidelines. So I'm just going to take select a few, and then show you how what do they require in terms of HR. And then we're going to take a bit of a deep dive and see the role of HR in sustainability, in delivering sustainability. So starting off by the definition of sustainability, I mean, if one of you takes a dictionary, any dictionary from any library, and looks at the word sustain, it will be equivalent to maintain. So sustainability is the ability to maintain something at a certain rate or level. It could be sustaining my weight, sustaining my health. I want to maintain it at a certain level. However, the word is used mostly when it comes to the environment, and it means the avoidance of the depletion of natural resources so that we have an ecological balance in our planet. Hence, when we speak about sustainability, at many times, it is only considered or thought of to be environmental activities or something that is concerned with the environment. But sustainability it means more than that. It means basically meeting our own needs as a generation, okay, like our own needs in terms of like natural resources, but also social and economic resources. It's not only the environment, and it's not only natural resources, it is also social and economic resources. And this needs to happen without us compromising the ability of future generations, our kids, our children, our grandchildren, to meet their own needs. So sustainability is a concept that is way more encompassing, that is way more broad and broader than just the environment. And this is not at all to undermine the importance of taking care of the environment, but also to bring along the social and economic resources. If we take sustainable ESG, because the terms are used interchangeably and mixed, ESG is basically the factors that we use to measure whether the operations of our business are sustainable and ethical or not. Do they have a sustainable and ethical impact or not? And these ESG factors can be used in two ways. They can be used by a business or a company as a tool to enhance and strengthen how we do sustainability. So sustainability is the concept, is the operation, is how we do things. And ESG are the factors that we use as a checklist or as a tick box of, we do this under the environment, we do this under the social, and we do this under the governance. So a company can use these factors accordingly, or it can be used as by investors to assess how, if we want to invest in a business, we want to assess if this business is ethical, if this business is sustainable, and if it's a good investment opportunity. Today, as an investor, you wouldn't want to invest in a business that has unethical practices, that has bad governance, that has a bad environmental impact. So these factors are now embedded in the due diligence that investors do to assess businesses they want to invest in. So this is, in a nutshell, what sustainability is all about and what ESG is all about. I would like to take you into details, a bit of details, so that we start to create the link with HR. So if we look at the environment, ESG stands for environment, social, and governance. So if we look at the E, or the environment, it is basically how a company actively assesses its operations and their impact on the environment, with a focus on climate change and resource depletion. So it would be, for example, how is efficient a company is in terms of energy. How do they manage their waste? Are they using renewable energy or not? What is their carbon footprint? How much water are they using? And are they disposing the water into rivers and polluting rivers? How is their supply chain? Is it sustainable or not? What are the products that they give out? Are they sustainable? Is the packaging they use sustainable, or are they using too much raw plastic? And also it covers land and land use and biodiversity, pollution. So the environment basically is when a company, shows when a company assesses the impact it has on the environment through its operations. If we look at the S, and this is mostly what concerns human resources, And this is how a company assesses its relationships, not only with its employees, but with its customers, its suppliers, its consumers, and it includes like labor practices, human rights. So how are you taking care of your employee well-being? How diverse is your staff? Do you include people with special needs or not? Do you include, if you're in a country that has many races in the community, are you including the different races, or are you just closing your company to one race and one gender, for example? Do you have fair labor practices or not? Do you do learning and development or not? And yes, for HR practitioners, learning and development is definitely part of sustainability. So it could be that you are already doing having sustainable practices, but not just creating the link or not knowing that you're doing it. Health and safety, human rights. These are all touch points with human resources. And if you notice, this is the part where like the link is there. So we're just starting to create the link between sustainability or ESG and HR. If we look at the governance, there are also touch points, and governance is basically how a company governs manages its structures, manages its boards, manages its risk, its ethical practices, anti-corruption, tax transparency. The links, there are links with HR, but not across the board, and it also depends on like how the size of the company and how it is structured. But there are also links, like if we look at fair wages and benefits, do you have a pay strategy? Do you pay your employees based on their previous jobs or based on the value of the jobs? Do you have ethical business practice? Do you have policies related to receiving gifts or giving gifts? How do you do your contracts? Do your contracts close the gaps of corruption? Do you have nepotism, and do you promote or do you allow people to recruit others just based on a relationship or based on a solid recruitment policy? So the governance also has a lot of touch points with HR, and HR and ESG shows clearly in many of these factors. But if I take you back, I mean, a step back, and for those of you who are not really HR practitioners, but we're all aware of what human resources does. But human resources is basically the function of managing people within an organization, managing them in a way that adds value to the organization, that helps this business have a competitive advantage. But the other component is related to governance and compliance. And we can split them into two roles. Strategic people management, and this is like the recruitment, the retention, the learning and development, how the employees are engaged, but it also looks at the governance, which is the fair practices, because when we bring people on board, we need to manage their contracts, we need to manage their well-being, we need to manage their rights within a company. So HR is like the balance between a company and its employees. And the HR department or the HR practitioners are the ones that do this. So if we go back to the factors, we find that under the ESG factors, these are the links. Under strategic people management, we have the diversity inclusion, we have training and education, employee well-being, fair labor practices, all of this, and even board diversity is part of the strategic people management. Do you have women in your board or not? Sometimes as HR practitioners, particularly when we're involved in the day-to-day activities, we do not think that we have a say to influence these practices, but we do actually. We do, particularly at the level of the C-suite level. We do have influence on the fair wages and benefits. We do have influence on the ethical business practices. So we do have factors that fall under the governance role of the HR, and we do have a lot of factors that fall under the strategic people management. Including even reporting. Reporting now is very, very important. And for example, if a company wants to be listed in the stock market, it needs now to be reporting its ESG, and by ESG, everything: financials, social, human resources. So the HR also has a role in transparent reporting and in reflecting what is really happening within an organization. So to sum this up, we can say that HR has a direct and important material role in the social and governance pillars of ESG, but it also has a role in the environmental pillar, and how by indirectly enabling the culture, bringing in people that do have the know-how, by linking sometimes in big companies, incentives and bonuses are linked with ESG factors. So you would find that the board has a fixed pay and a variable pay, and that variable pay is linked on a lot of KPIs, and some of them are the ESG KPIs, including the environment, the social, and the governance impact. So HR has a big role to play. And why do we do all of this? I mean, why does it matter? It matters because a lot of things. It matters because of the regulatory and legal exposure. Okay, now more and more regulations, more and more international standards, conventions are coming that require for us to be compliant. A lot of the countries we come from and we work in have ratified conventions related to labor, related to child labor, related to the environment that we need to commit to and contribute towards. So non-compliance puts us at a risk. There are the operational impact. So if you are operating in a company that has unethical practices, this will lead to a lot of things. From an HR perspective, it could lead to lower employee morale, lower productivity, people leaving, and also undermining the long-term business sustainability or performance. There's the strategic vulnerability. As mentioned earlier, if you want to your company to be listed in stock markets, you will need to report on your ESG. So not doing it, it puts you at a disadvantage. It also could affect your reputation, have reputational damage. Now with social media, with globalization, unethical practices, illegal practices are out there and exposed, and you risk your services, your products being boycotted and basically being named and shamed. There are the market and consumer risks, younger generations, and not only younger generations, a lot of the people now, but particularly younger generation, have a lot of ethical awareness towards the private sector, towards companies, towards products in the market. They like to pick and choose what services do they get, what products do they use, and then you risk by not doing this, you do increase the likelihood of your products being boycotted, and ultimately we do this for the positive impact that all these, like when taking care of our people, taking care of the environment, and having good governance has a positive impact that we need to pursue rather than these reasons. These reasons are important, but what is most important and more important is the ultimate positive impact we're going to have. So basically, ESG is also adopting it is a prerequisite for credibility. And as a company, when companies want to partner, if you're going into a joint venture, if you're going to get funds from a bank, having ESG, having sustainability implemented and having ESG factors reported on, applied and reported on is a prerequisite for credibility now. We have a poll now. It would be good to know whether your organization currently use any ESG sustainability reporting frameworks. There are many frameworks. Sometimes there are organizations that don't use any, but do report nevertheless, using their own templates, for example. So it would be good if you can run the poll, let us know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I think so. So today we have folks joining in from multiple different countries, multiple different locations. So yes, we're extremely curious in terms of what is the state of ESG reporting within your organization. We actually also have stakeholders and folks from different departments. We have some sustainability folks. We have a lot of HR professionals. So and it is possible that perhaps your company is doing some reporting, but you might not be aware as well. But take your best guess either way. Perfect. So the
Okay.
results are in.
Yeah.
This is very
So
interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Munna, do you want to take us through the results?
Yeah, so the Global Reporting Initiative, yes, which is the most common, and I'm glad because we're going to use it as an example later. The UN SDGs, a lot of companies are embedding them, and we're going to use an example, which is good. There's the SEBI, there's the IFRS S1 and S2, the TCFD, which is good. I see no one is using the UN Global Compact, which is straightforward, but this is fine. But we're going to use it as an example as well. It doesn't matter really, as long as you're doing something and as long as you're reporting, at least taking stock of what you're doing internally is very good, because you know that, okay, we're doing this, we have a gap here, and we're going to work on, and we have gaps, but that we're not ready to work on yet, or they're not relevant to us, they're not material to our business yet. So taking stock of whatever you're doing is really good. It's a very good start, regardless of the standard or the reporting framework you're using, or regardless of whether you're publishing it or not. And there's a lot of hype about reporting, which I personally do not agree a lot because sometimes I see that people are focused on reporting more than implementation. While implementation is key, and then reporting comes on or follows naturally. So thank you for your answers. We'll go then to the look at a few sustainability standards and see the link they have with human resources. We're going to look at the UN Global Compact, the Global Reporting Initiative, and the SDGs. The three of them were mentioned in the poll. A lot of you are already reporting or using the Global Reporting Initiative, and many of you are referring to the SDGs. So I'll take you first through the UN Global Compact, which is a compact that was initiated by the United Nations. Basically, it's a call for the private sector, for companies to adopt 10 principles that fall under 4 groups: human rights, labor practices, environment, anti-corruption. Just at a glance, as an HR practitioner, you would immediately know that you have a role when it comes to human rights, you have a role to play when it comes to labor practices and to anti-corruption. So these 10 universal principles, when you subscribe to the UN Global Compact, which is voluntary, they usually do that at the highest level of the organization, basically either the CEO or the chairman, where they send a letter of commitment and then you report annually. And the report is called the Communication on Progress. And by saying communication on progress, basically, it reflects that this is a journey and this is a process whereby you implement changes gradually, because you can't be doing everything right from the start, or you can't change everything in a tick. It's a process of change. It's a process of changing how you do your operations, your policies, your practices, your different practices within the company. So here, if we break down the 10 principles, I'm having stars put under the principles that are related, definitely related to HR. So if we look at human rights, for example, the protection of human rights. You could be a factory, you have many people working for you. Are you safeguarding their human rights or not? And this could be under so many, like now we have forced labor, we have compulsory labor, we have unfair payments. We have unfair contractual agreements, which could all affect human rights. So there are two businesses, and making sure that a business is not complicit in any human rights abuses. As mentioned, we have the labor practices, the freedom of association. Now in countries that have strict regimes, for example, and laborers in factories are not allowed to have a labor association. And this is a basic human right, the freedom of association. Compulsory labor, as mentioned, child labor, discrimination in employment. Do you discriminate against women? Do you discriminate against people with disabilities? Do you discriminate against people from a different religion than the majority in the country, different race? Under the environment, Principle 8 has a semi-link with HR, and this is promoting environmental responsibility. A lot of the time, human resources are also in charge of the administrative part of the company. Do you promote greater environmental responsibility within your staff, so that, for example, they turn off lights and air conditioning after they leave their offices? Do you promote, for example, using the metro instead of cars? So the HR does also have a component to play there, and anti-corruption, including things like extortion and bribery. We did mention before, if you have policies related to gift giving, gift receiving, all of that. So these are the principles under the UN Global Compact, and you see how many, the majority are related to human resources and human resource practices. If you go to the Global Reporting Initiative, so the Global Reporting Initiative is an organization that has developed standards to help us with sustainability reporting. So it's a reporting initiative, okay? And under this, it helps companies measure and disclose their ESG practices or their ESG metrics, environmental, social, economic, and governance impacts. And by that, it promotes accountability, because the moment you start reporting, you realize what you're doing and what you're not doing and what you need to do. And it promotes responsible business practices, and it's used worldwide. It is I think it's the most commonly used reporting standard. The GRI is divided into 3 types of standards: universal standard, the sector standards, and the topic standards. And it's divided into these standards to cater for the difference. That's why it's so international, because it caters for the different in company sizes, in company context, in company professions, different professions. If we look at the universal standards, it is also divided into substandards. And GRI 102 is the one that has the most links with HR. The sector standards, you just pick, there are so many and they keep increasing, and you just select the one that is fit with your company. So if you're in oil and gas, you select the oil and gas one. If you're in agriculture, you select the agriculture. If you're into cement production, you select the one that is related to cement. So the sector standards, you just choose the one that is relevant to your company. And the topic standards are the ones related to economic, environmental, and social topics. And of course, if you know of the concept of materiality is the concept of checking first what is material to your company. So if you're a company that has a lot of laborers, for example, you're relying on factories, you're relying on agriculture where it is done through labor and human labor, then the human factor is material to you. And then you choose the topic that is material to you, and in this case it has to be the social standard, GRI 400. For example, if you're a company that uses a lot of energy, or into cement production, the environmental would be very important for you to fill up. So basically, the GRI, you don't fill all the standards, you fill the ones that some of them are compulsory, and some of them are only based on your context, and some of them are based on what is material to your company. So if we take a look at the GRI 102, it also has reference to human resources, like, for example, reporting about the workers, your employee groups, employees and workers who are not employees or under seasonal contracts, casual contracts. It also looks at the organization's policies and practices for responsible conduct. It looks at how you engage your stakeholders, including employees, including your customers. So there are a lot of touch points when it comes to the general disclosures that are related to your employees, laborers, and workers you deal with. But if we take the GRI 400, the social standards, then you find everything that has to do with HR. So these topics are related to the human resources, are related to labor, starting off by your employment practices, how you manage your labor relations, how do you do learning and development, how are you managing diversity and equal opportunity in terms of recruitment, in terms of wage, how do you not discriminate, again, freedom of association, child labor, forced or compulsory labor, and supplier social assessment. For suppliers, it's very important because sometimes we tend to outsource our activities and not care about how the third party that is providing us with this activity or this service is managing their laborers. So you could be, for example, outsourcing your security guards, for example, for the company, the security team. But the company you're dealing with has malpractices there, and you do not want to promote that. You do not want to support them in doing that. You do not want to pay them a huge amount of money, and they pay their the guards that do the service at your premises peanuts. So it's very important as well to look at the outsourced activities. So if you look at the GRI 400, and if you look at these, very similar. Very similar. That is why the choice of what standard or what guidelines you use for the reporting, or to assess your HR activities, or to report on your HR practices, doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter what the company is using, as long as you are doing it, because they're very, very similar and they cover almost everything the same. Um, there's also a reference to a new ISO standard. Frankly, I don't know how new it is, but it's an ISO standard that is focused only on human capital reporting. So it's the very first international standard, ISO 3414, that offers globally recognized guidance on how to measure your workforce or your HR data in the context of ESG and sustainability. So this would, it creates the link automatically and it gives you guidance on how to report your HR data, your workforce related data in the context of ESG and sustainability. And it covers a lot of the SDGs. We're going to look at the SDGs later. Covers SDG 8, 3, 4, 5, 9, and 10. Again, we go back to a poll, and as an HR practitioner or a sustainability practitioner or from any other background, do you have the responsibility for improving ESG and sustainability KPI metrics? And if yes, what are the challenges that you face? So over to you. It could be that your company is not doing that. It could be that there's an issue with awareness. It could be that the organizational culture is not allowing for it. Could also be difficulty in quantifying in the metrics and in the quantifying the impact. Could be an issue of
Mona, if you
resource.
had to guess, which one do you think is the biggest challenge amongst our participants today?
If I have to guess, I would say the organizational culture and
Oh, okay.
mindset barriers, which is more or less also related to the knowledge or capability gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say either or both of them. Because if your culture, if the mindset is ready, nothing is difficult. If the mindset is ready, you can take the journey and you can simplify the process. You can break it down into milestones. You can bring in someone from outside to support you. You can develop a department within the organization that will be taking this up and promoting it within the organization. But if the mindset is not there and the knowledge is not there, then nothing happens.
Yeah. The results are in.
Oh, okay. Oh,
You were
I guess
right.
I guess it
Yeah,
was good. Okay.
you were spot on. 42% of our participants face the barrier of organizational culture and mindset,
Mm-hmm.
followed by 33% balancing short-term business priorities with long-term ESG goals. Interesting.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
next we
Mm.
have knowledge or capability gaps and difficulty quantifying impact and ROI. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes, I'm glad that we're going to also look at how the quantification part and that should help with this matter. Um, so if we go to the deep dive that we're going to take you into the links between sustainability and human, I mean, we've looked at so many links, but we just want to change this a bit into a practical discussion and what the role of the HR is in this case. I would like to take as an example the Sustainable Development Goals, and I chose in particular the Sustainable Development Goals because by now everyone knows about them and they just know about them in terms of like, the icons, the color, what do they mean, but not really how we can use them as reference. And I think to quantify or to develop metrics that could help you, the Sustainable Development Goals are really the best to use. And these are 17 global goals. They were set by the UN General Assembly as a blueprint to use to ensure as an action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that people enjoy peace and prosperity worldwide. So the Sustainable Development Goals, we just look at them as this, but we need to break down what are they. So if we look at each Sustainable Development Goal, you would find that each Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG, has a logo. Okay, so if we take the first one, no poverty, it has a logo, okay, and it has a number, it has a specific color, okay, and it has a title. For example, SDG 1, the title is no poverty, and it has a definition. What is it? It's end poverty in all its forms everywhere. But most importantly, which we do not see unless we go to the SDG page and click on the SDG, it has a set of facts and figures, okay, international facts and figures of where do we stand in terms of poverty now in the world. And most importantly, it has a set of targets to adopt. And this is going to be our focus today. And then there are commitments from international organizations on what they're going to do about this poverty thing. And the same applies to all SDGs, to the 17. Logo, number, color, title, definition, facts and figures, targets to adopt, and commitments. Today, I'm going to take you a bit through these 3 because I think these many have links to human resources, but I opted to choose these 3 because there are very direct links. If we take the SDG 1, no poverty, end poverty in all its forms everywhere, I chose from the set of targets to adopt. There are many, okay? I chose 2, these 2. One of them, by 2030, which is very soon approaching, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day. So this is one of the commitments. And the second one is implement nationally appropriate social protection systems and measures for all, and by 2030, achieve substantial coverage of the poor and the vulnerable. So if we as a company want to contribute to these goals, there is a big part of the responsibility lies within the human resources department. And please, by 1.25, this is the international poverty line, but this does not mean that we need to stick to that. Each and every company needs to have a minimum wage as per the cost of living allowance and as per the country they're working in. Sometimes our companies have operations worldwide and expand across different geographical zones. So what is your minimum wage per country? Who knows that? It's the human resources. How do they set their minimum wage? Do they keep track of it? And do they link it with the cost of living in the country of operation? Do they address wage gaps for low-income roles, contractors, outsourced staff? If I want to contribute to this particular target, I will need to look at not only my people, but also the people that I contract, the people that I outsource, and to ensure that no one is living in extreme poverty. And sometimes this is not the case. We see a lot of huge corporate companies that when they go to a developing country and when they work with, for example, farmers or low-wage roles, they end up giving them a very low wage as well. They do not link that with their revenue. They do not link that with their profit after tax. They do not set a percentage of their revenue that could go to the payroll. So, and this the responsibility lies with human resources. It could lie. That's why it's important as well in organizations to have a chief officer position, because the higher you go, the more you can influence and the more you can, sit on the board and discuss these matters. The second one is related to the social protection. We see that companies sometimes, if we're operating in a country where you have to enroll your employees in a social insurance fund, then you do it. But if part of your operations are in a country, in a developing country where governance is low, where there's no rule of law, and we can skip it, sometimes it does happen that employees are not enrolled in social insurance fund. You are reinforcing their poverty. You are reinforcing the struggles that they're going through. So are you relying on casual and seasonal labor, or are you to avoid? Sometimes there are companies that bring in casual labor or seasonal labor just so that they avoid enrolling them in social insurance, so that they avoid enrolling them in health insurance. One of the things that I find, some people are going to get upset with me on that, but I find almost bordering illegal, is that when you don't have a solid pay structure and jobs are not evaluated, and incumbents, when you have a new employee, okay, you bring in that new employee based on what they were paid before and not based on the new job that they're going to do within your organization. So one thing, if you have jobs within an organization, these jobs are hierarchical and each one has its own value. Some have a very high level of decision making, and if this decision making goes wrong, they could really jeopardize the operation. Some have financial responsibility, and some have just a labor-like job, but it's in a very hard conditions. So there's a lot of hardship associated. Do you actually pay based on these factors? Do you actually evaluate and say this job, the value of it for my organization is X, hence I'm going to pay them Y? Or are you going to pay only based on, whatever? So this is a very, very important component of HR: job evaluation, proper pay structure development, and paying as per the cost of living, paying as per what your organization wants to be in the market. I want to be in the 75th percentile of the market. I want my minimum wage to be, and this is also one of the things that helps you retain employees. So HR has a lot to play in this SDG. And here, I'm not going to go all through all these examples, but these are the metrics that you could be looking at, to see if you are doing something or not, or that if you want to create a change. For example, the percentage of, if you're going through a change, you could look at the percentage of low-income roles that have received wage adjustments. You could look at the number of times your pay structure is adjusted and a salary survey is run. You could look at the wage gap between your lowest paid role and your company median wage, or even in some companies, it is compared against the CEO's role. A lot of issues now or a lot of talk is around how the C-suite gets paid really high and the lowest get paid really low. So what is the structuring of these salaries? And the frequency of cost of living reviews. These are all KPIs that you can choose from if you want to create some change. If we go to the second SDG that I chose to share with you, and that is the good health and well-being, the definition of this SDG is ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. One of the commitments is to achieve universal health coverage. So again, do you provide health insurance for your employees? If your employees are working in factories, what are the health and safety measures? Do you provide medical coverage to dependents or not? Do you organize vaccination campaigns? Do you raise health awareness, even related to, in October, breast cancer, in mental well-being during COVID, all of that. So HR, again, we could think that it's good health and well-being has nothing to do with HR, but it does have a lot to do. Again, the examples of KPIs, percentage of employees covered by health insurance, percentage of employees covered for essential medicines. What is your absenteeism rate due to illness? What is the percentage of employees receiving annual health checkups if they are working in for example, a part of your business that has either radiation or fumes or chemicals? So these could be always made fit to your context and to your journey. You could be doing very well when it comes to SDG 1, but you need some work when it comes to SDG 3, for example. So it's not that you have to do everything at once, and you could already be doing a lot of that. One of the most important SDGs related to human resources is, of course, SDG 8, because it is directly related to decent work and economic growth. And this is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for everyone. By 2030, we want to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men, including for young people and persons with disabilities, and equal pay for work of equal value. You all know that in many countries, luckily we don't have this here in much in the Middle East, is that women are paid less than men for exactly the same job. We do still have an issue with recruiting people with special needs, people who are mute, people who are deaf, who have some physical disabilities, and they are hence being further marginalized. So do we offer training for people so that their careers can be developed? Do we have a grievance mechanism to protect employee rights? Are we ensuring decent practices within the workplace? Do we have a sexual harassment policy, a bullying and harassment policy? These are all also related to human resources, and the KPIs that are relevant to these are the percentage of new hires, for example, from women, people with disabilities. You can look at the percentage of employees having flexible time. Luckily, COVID introduced flexible time approach in many companies. What are the number of training hours per employee per group? Are you providing training only to senior management and forgetting about your laborers, which could, put them in the same cycle of not being able to grow into higher jobs and hence have higher pay? So these are just examples, but to be able to change these examples into into actionable steps for HR practitioners, I'm going to take an example that of SDG 8, and that by 2030, we're going to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men, including for young people and people with disabilities, and equal pay for work of equal value. Let us just say we want to focus on this particular part, equal pay for work of equal value. What are we going to do about this? First, the very first step would be to develop a pay strategy, either in coordination with, like, if you have a remuneration committee, if you have a chief HR that can help do that with the board. But this pay strategy will have all the details within, as in how are we going to make our payments, where do we want to be on the market in terms of percentile, what percentage of revenue or profit after tax are we going to allocate to the payroll, so that the more we grow, the more our people can grow with us. Because in many cases, we see a company growing, but salaries are not. The company growing, but the percentage of revenue that is allocated to payroll remains the same. So a pay strategy helps you set the pathway you're going to take to make these changes. The second step is to bring someone in, or as HR practitioners, come sit down and evaluate all the jobs within your company. Evaluate them and set their value. Like jobs A, B, C will need to be grade A jobs. EFG needs to be on grade B, for example, and then have a range of salaries for these jobs. And the jobs needs to be based on the role value, not the person who's going to take the job. Because the moment you set it on the person, you're going to, of course, there needs to be some room for maneuvering, because if you're having someone who's a very strong fit to your job, and for example, who's coming to set up a department that is new, then you might want to put them towards the end of the high end of the range you have. But you should not pay people based on their previous salaries, because this means that you're keeping them in the same cycle, in the same wheel. While someone could have been an assistant manager and now they want to be, they are fit to become a manager. So the job is different. You should not value a job based on a previous one, but based on its value to a group. Then after you do a job evaluation, you build a pay structure. You develop salary ranges for each job, for each grade, and place these jobs into the structure. And when someone comes, you look at your pay structure. Oh, this job is grade A. He or she will be paid this amount of money. This is equal pay for work of equal value. Then you do that and you correct and embed. You change the jobs, you map the job incumbents to the new structure, and you phase the changes. This is just one example, but this same routine can be done to all the different policies. Let us say in diversity and inclusion, we want to start including people with disabilities. We're not going to just go and bring, remove jobs, empty jobs, and bring people with disability. It needs to be a process. You need to have a policy. You need to agree with the senior management. You need to set it in your HR manual. Then you need to maybe approach organizations that have support people with disabilities find jobs. You might go approach universities and see students with disabilities, and then have some pipeline of intake until you can, for example, have a certain percentage. So if you want to make change, you develop the policy, you raise the awareness, you start doing your homework on how will I implement this policy, and then you start the implementation. So these are generic actionable steps for HR practitioners, but I know and I'm fully aware that there are a lot of challenges, and these challenges have already been mentioned in the poll, from knowledge gaps. We also have a serious issue of having a narrow scope for HR. Sometimes we don't have enough influence. We have a lot of resource challenges, metric measurement challenges. Again, we look at short-term wins rather than long-term focus. And then there's the cultural and mindset barriers. And again, the resource constraints. But it's a journey of change once the mindset, that's why I believe sustainability, for it to be properly implemented, it's a top-down process. And if we want to make proper change, if you are a sustainability practitioner attending this webinar, you will need to engage human resources as your strategic partner. People are key to turning sustainability goals into measurable action. So as a sustainability practitioner, please engage HR as your partner. If you are an HR practitioner, I really highly recommend that you think beyond employee management and notice and know that your HR practices can have significant positive social impact and advance sustainability, and just start thinking out of the box and beyond employee engagement. And this is it. I'm sorry if I took all of the time, but I think we do have a few minutes for questions and answers.
Yes, Mona, I have one question in the chat for me, which is there are a couple HR professionals joining this session, and one
Yeah.
of them asks if today they want to pursue a career in sustainability, what are certain steps they can take, right? What are certain skill sets they need to achieve that?
You would want to know more about sustainability and start off by the concept. And it can be a self-learning process. It doesn't have to be like through proper trainings but even readings could do. Like looking at the ISO standard 26,000, which is the ISO standard for corporate social responsibility. It's called corporate social responsibility, but it reflects all the concepts under sustainability, from governance, consumer issues. Understand how you as HR can make these changes and start embedding them. So you can go into, yes, trainings in sustainability, but ideally not sustainability reporting, sustainability in ESG. Or easier to do is read. It's a concept that is simple. It lies in basic, human concepts. And one of the things that they're messing about when it comes to sustainability is that a lot of jargons, a lot of reports, a lot of standards, a lot of guidelines, and it's just very simple, basic ethical behavior and ethical conduct, and in whichever you do. From caring for the environment to caring for your people to how ethically you do your business. So reading things and changes within how you implement HR. I hope I answered that question.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank
Before we close, I just also wanted to spend a couple seconds talking a little bit more about Oren. We at Oren, we're a end-to-end sustainability or ESG solutions company. There are two key pillars to our business. One is we have a tech platform called the Oren Sustainability Hub, and which companies, large corporates, even small companies use to account for their emissions, to sustainability reporting, value chain sustainability, benchmark their sustainability metrics against their peers. And we also offer a whole lot set of services, right? We do ESG trainings, policy advisory, support on EcoVadis, CDP, MSCI DJSI score improvement, and multiple other things. The reason why I'm speeding up is because we have a question in the chat. So Suhaila asks, what is about of the lagging company and huge company? Can we, okay, yeah. So Mona, I'll just kind of rephrase it a little bit. For a company that is today very large, and this is a manufacturing company, but however, they are lagging when it comes to just sustainability or ESG practices, what are certain things that they could do to implement or get started on this journey?
I think for each and every company, regardless of the size, it's a journey anyways. So regardless of the size, you will need to start by the understanding, and not the understanding like you get a sustainability department and they understand the concept. No, each and every department needs to understand what is this all about and how can they make the changes, and also identifying things that they're already doing. What kind of good governance do they have? I mean, many of the companies are already have a lot of ethical practices. So it needs, I think, the best thing would be for this to be a top-down process. So senior management believing in the concept and understanding the concept, and also getting someone who can help the others within the organization, within the factory. For example, I said it's a manufacturing company. The production people needs to understand it and understand the links, the legal department, the financial department, the HR, the supply chain. So there needs to be someone like a sustainability ambassador or a sustainability manager that will not do the work on their own. No, the sustainability team within a company need to orchestrate what is happening. They need to make all the departments understand the concept, create the links. Just like we created the link with HR, we can create the link with finance, we can create the link with supply chain, we can create the link with legal, and then with the support of the senior management, start making necessary changes a bit by bit, either changes under the HR, in our labor practices, in how we do our financial reporting in terms of transparency, in terms of how we manage our supply chain. So you can create a simple, small change in each and every department, and then this would, the collective action will add up to several changes per year, and then you can take this up year over year, and then the change will be there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mona, and thank you so much for spending time with us and walking through this unique space of interaction between human resources and ESG.
Thank you.
And we honestly learned a lot. And folks, if any of you have any questions, I'd request you to send us an email. We've overshot by a couple minutes, so I'll let Mona carry on with her day, and we can all as well. And this was super amazing. Thank you so much for being such a lovely audience. And yes, stay in touch. Ahana has put in some links. We love it if you follow us. We have a ton of similar webinars coming up in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Arushi, and thank you so much for everyone attending. And I really hope that I added a bit of information and some value to the topic, and that you will be taking it up and pursuing it further, either by readings or by implementing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.